Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and this is where I talk about all the books things that I love. So for today's video, I am going to be doing a video that I saw Tori from Novel Life do, which is the recommending books based on your name. So you choose a book for each letter of your name. It looked really fun. I should have realized that it would be a lot harder than I thought it was going to be because Tori's name is very much easier than mine. Mine has a lot of hard letters, but I did it, and that's what we're gonna do today. So my name is Victoria, Victoria. It is 8 letters, so I felt like that was long enough of a first name that I didn't want to go into my middle name, which would get even harder with letters. So we're just gonna do for Victoria. So I have 8 books to recommend to you today. So this was very hard. V is a hard letter. I've read very few books that start with V. Luckily, we did find one, and that is The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. This is a historical in the Bridgerton series. It is book 2 in the Bridgerton series, so it is the one about Anthony. It's the one with the upcoming season for the TV show. Since it's book 2, it has a very pretty step back. This book is about Anthony, and he has decided that it's time for him to marry, but he is determined to find somebody to marry that he won't love because he thinks that he's going to die young because his father died young. So he doesn't want a woman to love him and then be saddened more by his death that will eventually happen. So but he needs an heir because he is the Viscount. He is the head of the family, so he needs to have an heir. So he sets his sights on this woman that is like the prettiest of the year. She's the one that everyone likes, and so he's like, she must be the best. And he doesn't really have a lot of attraction to her, but he thinks she's pretty, so he's like, okay, she'll work for my wife, I'm gonna marry her. However, this girl has an older sister, older half sister, who is very protective of her, and she, Kate, the older sister, knows that her younger sister is going to be like the talk of the town. She knows that she's beautiful and that she's going to have a lot of suitors. Kate's family is not very wealthy, so they didn't have enough money for both of the sisters to have their own debuts. So even though Kate's older, they're debuting at the same time, because they think that the younger daughter is going to be the one that'll get them money because she's really pretty. So Kate and Anthony do not get along at first. Anthony is irritated by Kate from keeping him from her younger sister, and Kate is irritated by Anthony because he's Anthony, and he is a hard guy to deal with. He is not the most lovable. He's kind of irritating at times, but this is their romance and I loved it. It was really, really good. I would really, really recommend it, and now's the perfect time to read it because the next season of Bridgerton is coming out and it's this book. So the second letter of my name is I. This again was a hard letter, especially because I have 2 I's in my name. So the first I is Inked in Lies by Gianna Darling. This is book 5 in her Fallen Men Motorcycle Club, wow, series. I absolutely love this series. I have read them all out of order, so you can totally read them out of order. And this one is about Nova and Lila. Lila? Yeah, Lila. I was like, Layla or Lila? I never know how to pronounce which way to say that. It's Nova and Lila's story. So this starts off when they're very young, like most of Gianna Darling's books does. It in the Fallen Men series, they usually have like the beginning of when they're like first met and then like grows. So this is starts when Lila's very young. She her father is not a good guy. Her mother gets killed in front of her and her father gets sent to prison. And she ends up moving in with her best friend in the world who lives next door, which is Nova. And then this progresses as they get older throughout their life. There is an age gap. Nova is a lot older than Lila. I think it's like 8 years or something like that. Lila has had a crush on Nova since she was a child. She loves him as more than a best friend, differently than a brother. But Nova really doesn't want to think of her that way, even though he does, but he doesn't want to. And it goes from them being friends to breaking down their barriers to be more. It is a beautiful book. It is a jarring book. There are trigger warnings in it. The thing that I always say with Gianna Darling's writing is that she has the most beautiful way of poetically writing tragic and horrible events. So it's amazing, but her books can be hard to read at times because they are dark. But the love story between Nova and Lila throughout all their years is beautiful, and I would 100% recommend it. It's so good. Okay, on a lighter note, the third letter in my name is C, and for that I'm going with Captain by Lauren Rowe. This is book 2, I think, in the Morgan Brothers series. I think it's book 2. I'm pretty sure. I would recommend reading these in order if you can, but you don't have to. They're all different series, but you definitely see other characters in each of the books. So this is part of her Morgan Brothers series, and this is Ryan Morgan's book. Ryan Ulysses Morgan, who his initials spell rum, so he's called Captain Morgan. That's like his nickname. And he has a dream to own a bar, which I think is funny because Captain Morgan. So this is a sort of insta-lovey kind of story. So Ryan meets the heroine, whose name is Tessa, I believe. Yeah, he meets her at a bar. She is dressed as a flight attendant for reasons that they explain, even though she's not a flight attendant, but she's dressed as a flight attendant for the night to go out to bars and meet men. And she meets Ryan, and they almost instantly have a connection. Ryan has a feeling that they talk about a lot in the Morgan Brothers series, which is like that like instant I know that she's going to be the one that I marry kind of feeling. But they, after talking for a while and thinking that they're gonna like end up going out, a girl that Ryan had previously dated, who kind of still thinks that they're dating, she storms in and accuses him of cheating on her, and before Ryan can explain that he's not actually cheating to Tessa, she leaves and thinks that he's cheating and thinks that he's a shitty person because he was just cheating on his girlfriend with her, or going to cheat on his girlfriend with her. So Ryan needs to find her. So he tries to track her down, but all he knows is that she was wearing a flight attendant uniform, and he tries to track her down, but she's not really a flight attendant. So there's whole sorts of hilarity that ensues, but basically he ends up seeing her again at his sister's destination wedding because she is the assistant to his future brother-in-law, the man his sister is marrying. It is hilarious. It is just so fun and swoony and sexy and steamy and just perfect. Lauren Rowe is one of my all-time favorite authors, and her Morgan Brothers series is what made me love her, so I would totally recommend the whole series, but this one is one of my favorites in the series. I think it's my second favorite in the series. Ball Peen Hammer is still my first favorite, but there's no B in my name. All right, the fourth letter in my name is T, so I went with The Takeover. Both start with T, and T, TL Swan. So extra points. This is one of my favorite books of the year so far. I absolutely love it. This one is about Tristan Miles, who is his job is to basically buy companies that are dying and take them over. So he goes to this woman, her name is Claire. Her name's Claire. I don't know where I got Kate. So her name's Claire, and she is trying her hardest to save her dead husband's business. It was her husband's dream. It was her deceased husband's dream to give his company to his sons when they're old enough, but he passes away and his company is dying, and Tristan comes and is like, I want to buy your company, and Claire is so mad and she's like, absolutely not, I'm not selling my company, you're not taking it over, this is my dead husband's company and I'm going to keep it for my children. So this ends up when they are both, a couple of months later, are at a convention or like a retreat kind of thing for companies in France, and Tristan is the speaker and Claire attends this convention or whatever it is, and they end up going with their attraction for each other and having like a short fling basically in France, Paris, wherever they are, and they end up having this fling, and they're like, okay, it's gonna end when we get back to New York because like we would never work, you tried to take over my dead husband's company, like we don't actually get along, but you're hot and we have this connection. But basically they get home from Paris and Tristan is like, I still want to be with her. So he goes to track her down and he finds her with her 3 grown like sons. Her sons are like a lot older than they're not like little kids anymore. They're like, one's a grown teenager who's like 17 or 18. One of them is like 12 and one of them is like 8. So he is horrified of her children and he's like terrified about her sons. They are the funniest part of this book, but the way that he develops his relationship with not only Claire but also the 3 sons is so beautiful, and the relationship is just so swoony, and I absolutely love the addition of the children in here and Claire as a single mother raising her sons and dealing with the loss of her previous husband, and her dealing with like Tristan coming and like loving her children and like acting like a father. And so it's so good. I absolutely love it. Would 10 out of 10 recommend. The next letter of my name is O. This was also really hard to find a book that starts with O. I was trying to find ones that I don't talk about as much, but we are going to go with a Sarina Bowen because that was the only one that I had that was O that I like gave a really high rating to. And that is Overnight Sensation by Sarina Bowen. This is part of her Brooklyn Bruiser series. This one follows Heidi, who is the commissioner's daughter. The commissioner, of the whole hockey league. He is very wealthy and Heidi has grown up as a very wealthy person. She gets this internship at the Brooklyn Bruisers League to the owner of the Brooklyn Bruisers. She's like the assistant to the Brooklyn Bruisers owner, and she loves it. She loves her job, and she doesn't want to go back to college. She wants to continue working at the Brooklyn Bruisers. So she tells her father that she doesn't want to go back to college and that she's going to continue working at the Bruisers. And her father gets really angry at this and is like, you don't know what it's like to live in the real world. You think you're just going to be rich and have, like, what's that word? Just go about your lifestyle as you have been as a college dropout. So he makes it so that she has to work every single job in the arena, not as an assistant, but also as like concessions and in marketing and in security and every single thing that goes into like making the hockey arena run. So she ends up having to do this, but she gets really angry at her dad for certain things, and she doesn't like that he's still treating her as a child, and so she decides that she's going to move out of his house. And so she goes and she finds this apartment like on Craigslist or something, and she gives her deposit to him, and it turns out it was a scam. And so she ends up living on the couch of Jason Castro, who is one of the team members. Jason and Heidi have had this attraction to each other. Heidi really wants to sleep with Jason. Jason thinks Heidi's really hot. But they ended up having this like unfortunate picture taken of them where it looked kind of like Jason was taking advantage of her, even though he wasn't. She was just really drunk. And he was helping her, but they have like a lot of attraction to each other but aren't supposed to be together. But it's so good. I love Heidi as a character. She's so snarky and badass, and I love her. Jason is a great hero, very sexy. There are some trigger warnings in this one also for loss of a loved one. Jason's girlfriend from high school did pass away in a car accident, so they talk about that quite extensively in the book, but I would really recommend it. The next letter in my name is R, and for this I'm going with The Rivalry by Nikki Sloan. I love this book. This one is a football romance between a cheerleader for Ohio State and the tight end for, I think, Michigan State, whatever the rivals of Ohio State are. So the main heroine in this book lives, breathes, bleeds Ohio State. She was born in the Ohio State stadium. Her parents are huge Ohio State fans, and she absolutely loves and has a huge school spirit for Ohio State. She ends up going to a wedding, one of her friends' weddings, and she meets this guy, and they really hit it off, and they really like each other. And she, without knowing who he is, asks him to go out with her, basically, and they end up meeting up at this bar, and it is a Michigan State fan bar, and she freaks out and is like, what the hell? And he finds out that she is a huge Ohio State fan. He is the tight end for Michigan. I think it's Michigan. But basically they have to deal with liking each other and wanting to be together when they hate each other's schools. The hero, I think his name is Jay, it doesn't really bother him that much. He doesn't have as much school spirit. His parents don't care, but her, I think her name's Kayla, she is a huge Ohio State fan. She really hates Michigan State. She has having a hard time with the fact that like he is like the best player on her rival team. She knows that her parents are gonna freak out because her parents like live and breathe Ohio State. So it's really funny. I really liked it. There are some really good sexy scenes in it. Would recommend. The seventh letter in my name is another I, and I went with It Ain't Me Babe by Tilly Cole for this one. This is another motorcycle club book. This one is about Styx, who is the head of the Hades Hangman Motorcycle Club, and Salome, who is a cult escapee. So they met when they were younger. They saw each other through a fence. They forged this like really almost instant connection. Very instant connection. But they never saw each other again, but they never really like forgot each other. So then it's years later, and Salome has escaped from her cult and or like religious commune, and she runs away, and she ends up at this bar, and she goes in and she sees Styx, and they recognize each other after all these years, and he is like, you need to stay here. He helps her with all the things that she's going through as being a cult escapee, because the place that she lived in, this commune that she lived in, was horrific. The way that they treated women and just religion in general, it was just scary. The way that they made people in this commune believe what they were saying. So it's a little jarring, but she does escape, and she needs to go back and save her sisters. So she enlists the help of the Hades Hangman Motorcycle Club to try and help her save her sisters. But it is really good. There are a whole bunch of trigger warnings in this one also. Rape, assault, a whole bunch of things. So just make sure to check those before you read this book. Another thing that makes this book really cool is that Styx, the hero, he doesn't talk much. He uses sign language a lot, which is a really cool thing to have as a motorcycle club leader, that he doesn't talk. Okay, now we are on the last letter of my name is A, and for that I am recommending Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a 2021 release. It came out in March, I believe, and it is really good. It is book 3 in her Brown Sister series, and I absolutely loved it. So this is about Eve, who is kind of a screw up. Her parents anyway think that she's kind of a screw up. She doesn't really stick to jobs that she chooses. She kind of like thinks that everything goes wrong. She has like almost like a chaotic energy with her. So she gets in a fight with her parents, and she ends up driving around, and she comes across this B&B that has a help wanted sign looking for a chef. So she goes in and she tries to apply for the chef position, but she doesn't bring a resume. She doesn't have really any experience as a chef. And so the owner of this B&B, who is Jacob, he is a autistic man who very much likes things to be neat and tidy and organized. He immediately gets nervous by her chaotic energy and doesn't want to hire her. But his partner in the business, he is like, we don't really have any other options. She would be good at this. Why don't you give her a trial? So he goes into the parking lot to try and find Eve to give her a trial, and she ends up hitting him with her car. So she ends up having to take care of him, and anyway, there's a lot of chaotic energy in this, but it's super cute, and they end up having this very cute friendship between them. It's kind of like it's not really enemies, but it's kind of like a we don't get along at first, develop a really nice friendship to lovers. And I loved it. So good. It's just fantastic. Would recommend the whole Brown Sister series. But this one is really good. That is it. We have spelled Victoria. So thank you so much for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe, stick around. We have fun here. It really helps my channel. But that's it for this video.